Dr. Dre, Free Suge Knight.
NK music on the track. NK music on the track.
In the flesh, return. Come from Atlantis through the Imhotep step. Initiated as a god, earn my stripes in respect. It's the return of the gods. This world is a facade. Life is a dream. The American mirage. Indiana Jones in the raid of the lost ark. Whoa, for our ancient arts. Watch the movie They Live. Roddy Piper. Blade is a classic. Do you believe vampires? I am the original Willy Wonka. Welcome to my knowledge factory. Only God and goddesses is allowed on my faculty. If you try to challenge me, Mortal Kombat fatality. I am the royal bloodline of the Anunnaki. Ladies say I'm handsome, they give me sloppy toppy. Good vibrations, turn up your frequency. Mario Brothers, eat a magic mushroom with me. Good vibrations, turn up your frequency. Mario Brothers, eat a magic mushroom with me. I'm surfing on the tidal wave, I'm swimming with the dolphins. I'm out of my sarcophagus, some release me from my coffin. Thief from the police, overthrow the government. Eat a magic mushroom, that's the secret to the mothership. Yeah, that channel, that was a channel. Someone came through with that. All aboard! It is time to hop aboard my spaceship, cause you are now tuned into What is the Matrix TV. I am your beautiful host, Jason Elm Street Williams, master of the universe. And tonight we have a special episode, Magical Swords, Advanced Technology, the Knights of Templar, the European Knights in electrical suits. But I have a special guest who's going to break all that down and much more. Reigning in from Taiwan, he's a legend in the game, y'all. He goes by Charles Ross. Peace and love, brother. How you doing?
Hello. Yes, good evening and hello from East Asia. It's wonderful to be in another one of your most exciting, entertaining episodes, educating people in things that are forbidden.
Yes, let's get into it. So, with forbidden science and technologies to catch people up, what has been your latest research as we dive into ancient advanced technology of swords tonight and proving that there was an electrical force, meaning that we were able to harness electricity? And what does that mean for the viewers? When we were kids, we were basically taught that in the past we were hunters and gatherers, that we were all ooga booga, that we had no electricity. And if we didn't have electricity, that means that we didn't have machines. And that's a lie. And so here we are on What is the Matrix, giving you guys the truth on the forbidden science, which is forbidden history, which is forbidden knowledge, which means that the majority of the planet is under a hypnotic spell because they do not know the base reality. Therefore, the majority of the people believe what they've been told, which is a lie. So what we're going to do tonight is deliver information of technology present in the ancient world, which changes our view of the past, which should then change our trajectory for what we're going to create for the future. So go ahead, Charles.
Hi, yes. It's a really fascinating topic, and it's something that it isn't always easy to convince people of. But we are electrical beings, and I think everything that we have been taught may have applied to us in past decades, but it just simply doesn't hold water today. We are living in a realm that is electromagnetic, and there isn't really much else. We are the link between the electric sky and the magnetic ground, and everything throughout history has been a celebration of that. Everything throughout history has been supporting us in strengthening, duplicating, and at some point, parasites took over our
Yeah,
governments, parasites took over
talked about
this entire realm, and they've found ways with the help of very powerful creatures. I mean, they are having secrets whispered into their ears by demonic entities, because it's not humans that are fighting humans. It's good versus evil. It's angels versus demons. It's very real. And if you know the Bible, I think then you won't be surprised about what's happening. Um, and living in the last days is something that absolutely requires us to be vigilant and to understand our electromagnetic invisible body parts, because that's what's being taken from us. It's our body parts.
you were
They are
talking about
invisible. Yeah.
you're talking about parasites. In the last few episodes, we've really been getting into that. The
Mm,
last episode, I talked about in Stargate SG-1, the series. I basically teach that I'll use myself as an example. I'm still trying my best to improve on the skin color tone virus that was put in us, of almost in a sense of racism, to where we judge each other off of skin color. And to me,
yeah.
at this point, the ancients had figured out that it really wasn't just about the skin tone. Of course, it was about your character and your aura, but eventually we found out that we were fighting parasites, and that these parasites are intelligent, and that they're extraterrestrials, and that they create civilizations by taking over hosts. And in the show Stargate SG-1, it was the worm. And they
Mm,
will put these worms in the connectic jars. And this is what we find in Stargate SG-1, is that the ancient rulers of the past would have uh, a worm injected in their eye, in which you see a lot of the
yeah.
celebrities with a black eye. That's
Yeah.
representation of when they put this parasite either in their navel, right here, or in their eye, y'all, and it'll get attached to either their spine or their brain. And these parasites are able to take over hosts and control them. So this is what Charles was also speaking on, is that when we look at extraterrestrial life, we can't just look at just humanoid extraterrestrials. Extraterrestrials come in different forms, which are parasites. And to me, that's why we were eating a certain way in ancient times, and we had sound healing devices to kill these parasites so we could get to higher realms. So go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, I mean another interesting path to go down, to try to analyze how exactly we've been manipulated. Like, if you, it's all to do with your family line. I spoke about this last time. That uh, depending on which son you are, which son of Noah, which is when the reset happened, the flood. That's why you get seashells on the top of the pyramids. That's why you get crazy coral rock formations on the top of ancient mountains that nobody understands how they got megaliths up there, how they built cities in like a Manchu Picchu or Manchu Picchu, which are two different places. Um, uh, when you realize that we've been bred, they've been breeding us. They can't clone us, by the way. I do not believe in the cloning theory at all. It's something I'm very, very angry about, that this has been introduced, that people are just believing the clones without ever seeing it. I personally don't. I know a lot of people do, but I personally am very. I do not believe human beings are able to clone. I don't think we are, but I think we are able to manipulate people's lives to make them mate and breed with certain lineages, right? So I think that if you look at throughout history, there's been loads of these, like the Uyghurs, which are the original Tartarian lineage in China. They're trying to get them out, so they're removing them. They're putting them in these concentration camps. I've been reading, yeah. So the
Mm,
Uyghurs in China, they're putting them into these camps. They don't want them to breed. That's what it's about. It's about the next generation. So that's when you get like Brexit. Brexit was removing the Germanic, Moorish, European, Central European genome, removing that completely from this royal bloodline that you wanted in Britain, right? Great Britannia, right? So
mm,
they will literally watch each person, and then they'll lie and say that there's a billion people living in China. And when you go to China, there's this just ghost city after ghost city after ghost city. They've got the cities, they've got the paperwork for the cities, they've got so many resources, they got so much money, they could give each one of us $1 million and it wouldn't mean anything to them. They can build entire cities in like I mean, you how many cities do we really know about? We really know about like three big cities in China. There are dozens of cities in China where no one lives. Yeah, there are plenty of YouTubers driving around on their motorbikes. It's going to get harder as time goes on because they want to hide that fact. But it's just skyscraper after skyscraper falling apart. No one lives there. You know, because on paper they want it to look like there's a billion people, but there aren't that many people on Earth. You know,
mm.
there just aren't because we are the ones creating the electromagnetic energy. Yeah, you get that from humans. You get 1,000 times more from humans. Like you can affect with your invisible body part. You can affect electromagnetically 10 miles away the way a person feels. So if
Yes.
something terrible is happening in your neighborhood, you will have that sixth sense that something's happening that's not right, and it will affect you. You know, it doesn't mean you're involved or you're guilty. It just means that your electric field is very much affected by how you feel. That's why I think half the humans on Earth are not real people. They have no internal dialogue like you and me. They're not thinking about things. They're going to work, they're going home. They're going to work, they're going home. They go on holiday twice a year. They're paying all their bills, and that's it. And is that enough? Is that really enough? Because you have to start removing their electromagnetic fields, because otherwise they're constantly going to feel unhappy because they know that's not what they were built for. That's not what they were born for. That's not in God's image. I'm trying to teach everyone to become a god-like entity. I'm not saying you're a god, but I'm saying god-like, because if you follow that path, then you are doing what you were born to do, right?
Mm.
And all of these are abbreviations, like.
So that's in the
Yeah.
sense of possibly, like you're saying, that we're in a matrix hologram where some people are NPCs, non-player characters.
Right. Some people are NPCs. You can tell they're probably wearing masks. They're probably not real people. When you see those soldiers with the little worm heads, right? There's hundreds of these sculptures.
Yes, I'm downloading
Those
that
are the
right
people that actually started the wars, try to create the wars, right? Uh, I'm not sure how many people exactly the number, but it's not like it is a large percentage of the people you meet every day. They're not real. Just try to go down streets you're not supposed to go down, or follow people you're not supposed to follow. I'm not saying harass anybody and get arrested. I'm saying just try to analyze people. Like just ask them about their past, because
there. They
they
don't.
hate that. They hate talking about their past. I
Right.
know NPCs. I can tell them within a few seconds who's the real person, who's not. We are probably There's probably one person around like 100 people in an office, and they're all scheming clever ways to stress you out, weaken your electromagnetic field, make you feel negative. And this is the number one thing that Tesla found out, that if you weaken someone's electromagnetic field, it has to be through fear. That's why the
Mm,
news is going to give you terrible things happening. You're going to have accidents. I've seen accidents happen after the ambulance was told to go there
mm.
all the time, but you'll never see that because you're not looking for it. Not you personally, but the plural you. Like most people are not saying, "Oh, there's an ambulance there," and then 10 minutes later there was an accident. So they got something wrong. They planned it wrong. They're trying to create an
Yes.
accident to block the street so everyone gets stressed out and is negative, and then they can start bombarding you with their the destruction of your invisible body part, the most powerful thing you were given. And it's got so many names. It's got chi is the name in China. They call it chi, your chi energy. You can manipulate reality, manifest things. You know, you can draw good energy to you. You can draw good people to you. Have you ever like turned around and you've like realized someone's staring at you and you're turning around and you're looking directly at them?
Yes, my fiance was talking about that, how someone was just staring at her at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
farmer's market, and then she looked at her, and the person started doing all this.
So
So I'm listening.
what part of your body is doing that for you? Because not your eyes, because you don't see them until you turn around.
It's your aura field, and that's
Yeah,
what they don't teach us in K through 12 education. Is
you
that
will
we,
never
for me,
learn that. You have to come somewhere like Elm Street.
yes, and that's why I say we refer to ourselves either as gods, superheroes, but meaning that like they would use certain prophets that say, "Did I not teach you that ye are gods?" Meaning that each of us, they say that the human body has enough electrical power to power up a city. One
Yeah,
human. So
yeah.
that alone lets us know that one, we're a weapon. We are a weapon. The human body is a weapon of mass destruction. For one, because
Or
that
mass
means that you would
creation,
be a
because they
bomb,
want you to think about it in a negative way.
right?
But maybe
And,
it's not
and
that.
then
Yeah.
and then so if you can reverse that and not cause destruction like a segment, then you create life in your torus field, infinite possibilities on a matrix hologram. So like Charles was saying, if they bombard us with negative news, negative music, all negative movies that are about violence, guns. This is why the future movies are always violent. They always show apocalyptic movies so bad is because they're trying their best to dictate what we're manifesting. Therefore, if all we're thinking of is that the future is going to be horrible, it's going to be bad, robots are bad, that's what we're going to manifest. But once
Hmm.
we take over our minds, bodies, souls, and spirits, we create the new world. And if we want the new world to be magical, where people can fly, where if you're not feeling well, you can go into a building and hear sound frequencies and heal. You can go to certain land masses and learn how to shoot fire out of your hand. You go to certain land masses. Basically, the planet was a major university, y'all, to where you could travel to different lands and learn different sciences. But
Yeah.
go ahead, Charles, with the electromagnetic field. So basically, we're able to create our realities and manifest it in a way of basically manifesting our dreams. But if we're not given the proper instructions, like a video game, when you used to open a video game, you used to play it by yourself sometimes and learn, but eventually you would have to open up the instruction manual. And then you would learn, oh, wow, if I press A twice, I run faster. If I press B left, it'll do this. It's the same thing in life.
Yeah.
To me, that's what the hieroglyphics are. The hieroglyphics are the sacred language and tones of what we call the gods or extraterrestrials, are clues that we've left for ourselves to wake up. And that the language that we've been given is a language for the humans and slaves, which vibrates on a low frequency. And that's another reality they don't want us to capture, because when we learn to go and learn those tones and languages, that opens us up to new worlds, because language and words create worlds. So
Yeah.
once again, the so-called human avatar body has yet to be tapped into in this generation. And that's why they have Elon Musk trying to give us the Neuralink, and he's setting up the Starlink to basically stop us from tapping into being able to pull infinite information from the ethers down to this planet and manifest it. And that's what I feel that the pyramids and these ancient structures are. It was a time when we were able to tap into higher realms and bring those realms here to what they call planet Chi, Asia,
Yeah.
or Earth. So go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, that's right. I mean, the stations to recharge your energy are slowly disappearing, which means that we have to create our own. We have to maybe in our own home have a like a Faraday cage, which is the old world tech being rebuilt in the 19th century. Which obviously a lot of this came from Egypt. But the real Egypt was not Africa. The real Egypt is America, and I think that should be common knowledge now. Because of, I mean, you can go to Memphis, you can go to the Grand Canyon.
And people
What
might
has been found there? The footage, the photos are online. It's not easy to find things, but
and Charles, people might say, what does he mean by Egypt's not in
yeah,
Africa? Can you explain for those who might not know what you're speaking on? Are you basically saying that they switched up the words and switched up the maps to throw people off? And if they did that, that would mean that there's people who've died believing a lie. So what do you mean that
yes, yeah.
Egypt?
This is the most motivate, the greatest motivation for me. How I think you get ancestral energy is if you don't if you don't make a mistake and you don't hide anything, or you don't lie. I think as soon as you lie, that energy, that truth will leave you, and it'll be hard for you to speak. Be hard for you to get up. It'll be hard for you to concentrate and think. But as long as it's kind of like worship. It's like just like worship, right? I mean, if you read the Bible every day, you're gonna understand it, and you will get help understanding it, and it will be the divine, yeah, the
Yes,
divination, divine. Yeah, then you have to obviously understand that all information can relate to itself. So the Torah and the Tarot can relate to each other, and I always have a tarot card with me, a few tarot cards, because when I was young, I was a Jehovah's Witness, so I had to study the Bible every day, 3 times a week. I had to go to meetings. I had to give speeches in front of hundreds of people as a very young 12, 13-year-old. So, so understanding the Bible is probably one of the greatest things. But it's probably only the first 2 or 3 books that weren't plagiarized and rewritten. Okay, but that's okay. You don't need that much of the Bible. When you realize, like I spoke a while ago, to the lady that joined us. She spoke about how many books there were originally, and that all of the books were actually linked to colors of our vision, the sphere of our vision, and also the notes on a piano, because that's the harpsichord. So the piano is linked to each book of the Bible. There are 88 keys. There are 88 books originally. They took out 22 books were taken out, like the Book of Mary, Book of Giants, Enoch. Enoch was such an important book because Enoch was all about this electromagnetic energy that we harness. It's ridiculous how, like, a few weeks ago I didn't understand that human beings were the battery, that we are actually the battery. So when you look at a Baghdad battery, it's kind of like mimicking the spine, the copper anode that goes through the center, or the cathode, if you want to create it using more than one positive and negative charge. But anyway, there's a copper central copper
and the
stem or
Baghdad
coil.
battery is up to the left corner for the viewers of what
Yeah,
Charles is speaking of.
yeah, and you also have the a modeled or maybe AI version of the hieroglyphic uh, large light bulb that the Egyptians invented. We didn't know
Yes.
what that was, by the way. Like 10, 15 years ago, nobody knew what that was. So that's a big deal. And then underneath, you have these charging transistors. And we still use that technology today. We still use that geometry today. We obviously have different materials. We're not using clay, or that seems to be some kind of glass blowing going on in ancient Egypt. That's insane. If that's actually what was going on. But they all already had that, and all that Western scientists and inventors did is they went over there. after the conquest of Egypt, the hieroglyphs in that part of the world. I'm sure there's hieroglyphs in almost every. I think there's hieroglyphs in
There's
in
there's some
Spain.
in
There's hieroglyphs
California,
in Bosnia. There's hieroglyphs in
Riverside.
China. Yeah, yeah,
Yes, because we were an advanced civilization. We are what we call a
yeah,
global civilization. We were seafarers. So basically, y'all, imagine me as a pharaoh or as a god or as an ancient priest or scientist who had technology not just to sell, just like now you see rich men where you're able to travel and fly around the world. So imagine me in ancient times with knowledge, superior technology, and I had sex with a woman in Asia. She bore a child, and I gave them. So imagine me having babies all throughout the world that will create a bloodline. Therefore, you could see how that tradition and that education system was all around the world. So if we traveled in packs by the thousands, you could see hieroglyphs in California, Kentucky, Asia, Spain. Same with Moorish technology. You find Moorish Spain wherever you go, pretty much. You find
yeah,
Tartaria. So that meant that there were different families, just like different companies, who had different technologies. So
yeah.
go ahead, Charles. Like when we look right here,
So
we see the
yeah,
Giza power plant. So that's a
right,
major power plant that would distribute electricity for miles, thousands of miles, or even worldwide. Then the Baghdad
right,
battery, let's say that's like a mobile charger, like you have a mobile charger for your phone. Then to the bottom left, we have the obelisk. We see obelisks and totems wherever we go throughout the planet. Those are your antennas. Those are your old antennas. And then we see Anchor Wat. Anchor Wat, once again, is a Watts tower. That's why they call it in California the Watts Tower, because there were Watts towers set up throughout the planet to distribute electricity. And that electricity could power up your devices, whether it was like He-Man with his jet sled right to the right. And to the right, you guys see the obelisk. And these are towers of power. So this is what Charles is talking about. So imagine a society where we have knowledge of self, so we know how to harness our electricity within, and then we build edifices like gas stations. Just like we have gas stations to power up your car, we had power up stations to power up your body and your devices. And this is what we see with the obelisk. Um, so go ahead, Charles. I have other pictures.
yeah,
But it right here, there's a movie called Mortal Kombat. And in the original Mortal Kombat, they spoke of Angkor Wat being a place where the gods return. And if you watch the movie, Raiden was a humanoid god, and he was able to transfer portals at these ancient sites. So when I watched that movie, I said to myself, oh, that's how we do it. We go to those sites to learn the information. And if we're good enough, we can learn to travel to different worlds. And Liu Kang went into inner earth and he traveled through different dimensions. And basically, he was going to a higher school. And then he was able to shoot fireballs out of his hand. And then to the right, there's a movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme called Street Fighter. And in that movie, M. Bison was able to shoot electricity out of his hand. And he also was able to create technology where he had a flying craft like Charles knows about the Venomous, the flying crafts in India. So once again, this is proof that we had electrical machines, which I believe to be 3D printers. I believe that we already had robots and AI, and clearly we had machines, just like we see in Back to the Future with hoverboards, virtual reality headsets that we see today, flying trains, and then go ahead, Charles. But to the left, let's get into it. We see that Magneto The headdress that Magneto wears in X-Men links directly to the headdress that the European Knights wore, and we can link that to the Tesla Magneto device, to where we were able to distribute information throughout the planet. And if we had head devices, that meant that you were able to wear a special type of ancient helmet, like you see right here in Back to the Future. And then right here, and these devices were electrical devices like radio stations, where you could pick up information and put it in your brain. And this is why we were an advanced civilization. So, what do you feel about this, Charles? I have a picture right here of
Yep.
Stargate SG-1, and it's a controller. But if you look at his hand, you see different royalty. I've seen royalty with those type of hands, jewelry, and I think that those were devices. And if we now know that we had mobile batteries and that we were able to harness electricity, then that means we were creating innovative technology in the ancient
Yeah.
world. So
Yeah,
what do
that's
you
what all
feel
of that
about
was
that?
about. Yeah, that's what all of the jewelry was about. It wasn't about looking pretty. It was about enhancing that energy field. Now, how powerful is it? Well, I mean, you can control animals. You can start to communicate like horse whispering. You can start to control nature. You can manifest things, telepathy, all of this, all kinds of kinetic functions where you can train. I mean, you can train it today. You can definitely begin training. But we are told that that's ridiculous. That goes into a category of fiction. Now, that's not what the governments or the elites think. I think that they think that that's dangerous. They think that that's something that they can't control. That's your God-given divinity, and you can begin to work on that. Don't let anyone tell you that it should be considered to be fiction. That's why you get the movies. The movies are there to inform everybody who knows that, don't worry, we know what's going on. We know how powerful we are. But for most people, the movies are just trying to tell you that what you're thinking that way is impossible. It's a movie. You're, keeping each other down. Like, oh, what you're thinking is ridiculous. Your belief system doesn't make sense. What you think you're a superhero, and then you've got those references, and then the names of the superheroes sometimes are also trying to replace any Google search chances you have of finding the truth. So if you search for giants, you're going to find an American football team. If you search for a specific kind of bacteria, it's going to be some kind of, I don't know, music festival or some famous rock star or something. So like when you get like,
Wow.
so when you get Van Halen,
Yes, keep
when
talk
you
about
search
it.
for the Van Allen belt because you want to find out how many layers there are above you that you can also draw energy from, then you find Van Halen. So Van Halen were obviously given this name, and then they had to maybe go through
Th-
some kind of legal documentation to change their name so that they could pretend that that was the reason why they called the band that name. But that happens to me all the time. Like Prometheus, you Google Prometheus, you want to find out the creator god that echoes throughout Egypt, became also part of Greek mythology, then also became part of Roman mythology. You're going to find a movie about aliens. Some again a spectacular film,
there's a
incredibly well written movie, but unfortunately in that movie the Baghdad battery becomes just an alien breeding egg that kills everyone. So it's you know but they
there's
are copying all that geometry. They're copying giants, Nephilim. They are copying the Anunnaki. They're saying, oh, everyone has these like chamomile flower bracelets that are actually powerful manifestation devices. That your hand links to every part of your body. And even if people are like amputees go through some terrible accident where their arm is removed, their arm is still there. They just can't see it. They feel like it's there. They know it's there. You can touch that area where the arm's supposed to be on amputees, and they will still feel you touch them. This shows us that our eyes are so limited, ultraviolet to infrared is so limited that we only see that physical manifestation of our bodies. We don't actually see our bodies because our bodies are these giant, powerful, divine Vajra, energy devices that have all kinds of names in different cultures. I mean, if you go to like the Chinese Taoist temples, they're all celebrating this energy. Above your head, there's all these beautiful creatures, these mythological creatures that obviously existed at one time. But as human consciousness gets worse and worse, you're going to have more natural disasters. You're going to have extinction levels going to go crazy because nobody is sharing their energy with creation anymore. They're all worried about somebody cutting them off on the highway or not getting the correct change or somebody who's annoying you at work. And when you get a real powerful person, like pick any powerful person that had something special. Like I always think about Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle had really high level electric energy, right? He was so good. He was writing these amazing comedy series, right? And and they started messing with him. They started to destroy his energy. They started to rebuild, like they started to build doors, places where there weren't doors before, and then walls next to doors so he couldn't get into his studio. They started to mess with him. Then they offered him 50 million to try to destroy his motivation, and he just ended up running away, I think, right? And then
Yes,
he came
South
back completely
Africa.
changed, completely different person.
Yeah.
Completely different person. I mean,
I think they
um,
clone. For me, I feel that they definitely clone people. I'm one of those clones, and in the industry, I know how they can basically, in a form of either hypnosis or when I tell people they can snatch your soul, meaning that
mm,
there's a way, like underneath the record labels. Let's say they drug you and they put you on a table, and they know these ancient Sumerian, Egyptian chants. So let's say you're passed out on a table with pentagrams,
mm,
diagrams, they have certain obelisks, and they're doing chants, and they're able to get your Merkaba, your spirit, to lift out of your body. For those who've been out of their body and seen their real body, they know this, and then they could put an entity inside of your body to take
mm,
over. And just like when a person is drunk or on drugs, their face looks a little different and their voice changes, it's because
yeah,
they've been taken over by another host. So
yeah, yeah,
if a person's not necessarily cloned, y'all, they can be taken over by a parasite host, or they
right.
can be another entity can be put into them, which was being practiced in the ancient world when they say they wanted to bring back Osiris and these other
Right, right.
entities. So
Well, yeah,
Charles,
when they wanted to bring back Osiris, they had, I think they had to build these obelisks as symbolism to their one-eyed god, right? To the god that is missing his phallic member, right? So they had to rebuild that. But then they still managed to impregnate Isis, right? Is that correct? So
yeah.
so this is actually a very similar story to Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, and even Thor and Loki and like Cain and Abel. Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of similar stories
Well, you guys
because they
look.
obviously had to mate with their own sisters. I mean, they had to. There was no one else on Earth.
Well, look at
So,
this.
yeah.
It coincides with what you're saying. The
Mm.
deadliest weapons of the Hindu gods. So
Yeah,
when
but the energy has to come from you. This is my theory. Yeah.
go ahead, I'm gonna
So
put it
you're
out.
supposed to hold the central part. The central
Okay.
part is the deity. It's called a dharma key in for the ancient power of the divine. It's a book. So the main deity is dharma key. Now it depends on your lineage. There's a different Vajra for every family lineage, but as an Aryan or an Iranian, you have to get the right one. So I have to get one that has an animal of the forest, of the native forest, like the Black Forest, like Germany, for example. So that's the lineage. I mean, I still believe that I'm a Tartarian because of my grandmother's side of the family. So you have the enlightened activity, which is male. Now, the male can never rule. The male can never rule, according to the Vajra power of the divine. Something really bad happens if the male becomes the ruler. You cannot have a male king at any point in time in the lineage. Now, all of the life force comes from the king, and in the animal kingdom, the male usually dies after he's mated, right? So I believe that every single, and I think that this is time to say this now. I feel it's the right time.
You keep talking,
With licensed activity, there cannot be
your
a
mic's cutting
male.
out. Your mic's cutting out a little.
Cutting out. Is it better now? Is it working?
It's starting to chop.
Okay, that's annoying. That's static. I could be being attacked.
Wow. I
I don't know what's
wonder,
going on.
is it you holding the device? Maybe.
It could be this as well, because what we're talking about, this is actually quite apt, is that I am enhancing my electromagnetic energy by about 10,000 times. So they'll see me now. They'll see me now what I'm doing now. It could be affecting static as well because it's been quite close to the phone for a while. Okay, so there's a sun disk, and guess what the other side is? Moon disk, right? So you got the yin and the yang in Chinese, sun disk, moon disk in the Indian Hindu as well, Hindu religions, Taoist, Buddhist. 5 male Buddhas. So I found 3 on this particular one. There are 3, Holy Trinity. But then we do have snakes as well on each side. Now the snake, the serpent is the nectar, right? That's the nectar that goes up your spine every 29 days.
And
So
I
you have
think those uh like electrical bolt, that snake represents like the electrical current, and
yeah,
maybe the wires are
yeah,
missing inside in certain pieces where
yeah.
you would put that ether.
Well, there's some calcification or maybe oxidization happened inside. There's much more to it's not just simply a piece of metal, a copper.
Right. There's
But
missing
it's
pieces.
cool, it's copper. I mean, this is what we're talking about. This is what Tesla was talking about, copper, right? Copper was I think they were using copper, brass, gold, to create the first battery, the first 18th century
What,
anode and
what,
cathodes.
what can you explain the picture that we have right here with
Yeah,
the
so the moon is the female on this one. Yeah, so the moon is the female, the male sun disk, or the male is the sun disk. So the male on this one, we have 3 different gods, including one very demonic looking one, almost like a Anunnaki looking man, like a clown. And then on the other side, we have obviously the Vajra is actually in the center here. This is the Vajra. The outside is is kind of the celebration of feminine and the masculine. So you can't. So the king has to be feminine. Every king has to be feminine. Every president has to be female. Yeah, that's the only way that this esoteric information can function. So the male. I don't know why it's upside down. That could be a religious thing. So you want it to be upside down because you're piercing the heavens. Now you can point this at clouds apart, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on with this thing. Now this has been linked to me for about maybe a year now, and it is kind of changing a lot. A lot of things, details are changing on it. Like the weight of it has changed. It's no longer heavy. Um, I have 8 petals on this, which represents the 8 female bodhisattvas. So you don't have to be like Indian. You don't have to be Asian. We were probably we were probably
Can we
moved
see if
around.
you put it down? Because it's still chopping. I want the people to hear you.
Yeah, it's affecting. Is that better? I put it away. Yeah, it's really affecting the way I think that
Man,
waves work. But I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna carry on like that.
yeah, it's chopping now all of a sudden. Can you
I
speak
could
now?
be. I could be messing around with something that's affecting my mic because it's obviously electric.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, we are talking about electricity. We're also using telepathic devices, I guess.
Oh my
Yeah, it
goodness.
could affect actually. me talking. Yeah. So it's not just this device. This is just one of the devices. This is a German, very old German print of a man called Frederick the Great. And he has actually in this picture some of the ancient, I think a lot of the ancient electromagnetic devices. So at the back, he has the mirror. Behind that, he has a facet, and there's a bundle of
Damn,
twigs.
it's chopping up again.
Is it chopping
It's
up?
was that device close to you, or was it further away?
Oh, I mean, I can put it away. Other, yeah.
I wonder, because that's
I
literally
don't know how powerful it is. If it's been charged, it could last a long time.
that is insane. Yeah, because
It could be. It
my
could be
connection
if
is
I
fine.
held it long enough, it could be affecting. Things.
Darn it. Oh, I'm loving this episode. We're not even an hour in yet.
That's a nice.
Um, so he's talking about the Vajra, and if you guys look, he was speaking of the sun disk that's to the right, and he was speaking of a male, the main deity. So almost in a sense, when you guys watch movies, a certain person has to touch it. Like in the movie Bright with Will Smith, it took someone of that bloodline to touch it and activate it. Just like when we watch movies with the sword in the stone, Excalibur, Merlin the Magician, King Arthur, Conan the Barbarian, He-Man. All these movies talk about a sword. So can you start breaking down what we're looking at when we look at these knights? But first we see a death ray, and
Yeah, I love that.
it was talking about Archimedes. How do you say his name? Archimedes of Greek.
Archimedes.
Archimedes.
Yeah,
He had
Archimedes was an enlightened soul. Yeah, a Roman inventor, alchemist, philosopher as well. Yeah. So I mean, it seems really simple to us now because we've benefited from many, centuries of human study, and we've kind of evolved many times since that era. But he created a concave mirror or a series of concave mirrors along the coast in order to defend the city from the Roman galleys or warships. And he managed to do that. And there is no other time in the history of ancient history of war that this was used, which seems insane to me because some of his other inventions were used many times, like the flamberger device, which is the coolest thing. It's the coolest thing. He was creating a type of everlasting fire that is also referenced in Game of Thrones, I think. So that was just crazy. Like I don't know what that was. They won't tell us what that is. But anyway, these large mirrors he lined up along the coast or maybe along the wall, and many people have illustrated this. So there are dozens of different illustrations. So he was directing the sun's energy and focusing it on the sail. I think the sail, maybe the materials that the sails were made out of on the ships, and he was just like burning ship after ship. The people were jumping into the sea, and I think it's the angle that is incredible. Like he knew what angle to build these large. I don't know how he built the mirrors. I don't think they had modern like glass blowing. I think that's some kind of crystal they had to make these. But even for the king to say, okay, Archimedes, I'm gonna take what you're saying on board and I'm gonna build this. I'm gonna spend all my resources building like does maybe like I don't know how many hundreds of mirrors he must have placed on the wall. That must have been an insane thing to see, you know? I mean, that
yeah,
would have changed a whole generation of DNA. Like just seeing the sun being reflected and focused onto these large warships that were going to basically murder everyone and destroy, like, because the Romans were hardcore. I mean, uh, like as far as defense goes of a city, if you don't do that successfully, you die and your family dies and you lose everything. And if you're lucky, you'll be a slave for the rest of your life. So it's like, I mean, the stakes were high, but but again, also in movies, they always kind of put a little bit of this into movies. I saw some of this. Harrison Ford had a little line in Indiana Jones. So there's like they do references, but to explain the whole story, I mean, you could spend a long time just explaining that. Yeah,
Well, even
yeah. I
in the
mean,
movie Robin
mm,
Hood with Morgan Freeman, the bit of
yeah,
technology, that's a good movie for everyone to watch, because there's a scene where Morgan Freeman, Moor, and he always plays God, right? More, and then even in Batman, he had all the gadgets for Batman, but he said,
yeah,
"How did your uneducated kind ever take over Jerusalem, which is Jerusalem, which is the
yeah,
sun,
yeah,
because our ancestors, the Moors and Moors of ancient antiquity, we were able to use the sun and harness its electricity. That's why Akhenaten for me was holding that device, and we were able to basically get the song notes of what the sun was saying. So imagine a device that was able to decode the hums and the frequencies of the sun, and you could break that down into a language. So that's the technology that we're building with. But when we look at Kevin Costner, he, as a pale skinned European, did not know what a telescope was. He's
yep,
literally in the telescope trying to poke the people. So it lets us know once again that in Robin Hood, they're in the Crusades, but they're really
mm,
talking about it's a racial war of the Moors between the pale skinned Europeans. So there was a
yep,
race war that took place, and they expelled these men and women, what they will call mere, Mers, or Moors, Swarthy, Sephardic. And so basically, European so called Black people who had knowledge. And so in Robin Hood, the Moor was the one who was giving Robin the information. And there was a scene where Hassim was talking to the Slavic, and he
yep,
said, "What is Hazim? Is that Scottish, Irish?" And he said, "Moorish." And he went, "Oh." And here is a
yeah,
blind man who's being guided by a Moor, didn't know who he was, showing him love. But the moment
yeah.
he found out he was a Moor, he became scared. And he was saying, Brother Robin would have never left his people if it wasn't for the Sorcerians and those
Yeah.
Moors.
Yeah, they called them Saracens back then
Very good.
because the weaponry, because the curved blade, right? It's
Sarah
like a scimitar
sword.
or something they had. Yeah.
There you
So I mean,
go.
yeah, if you watch like Lawrence of Arabia, Peter O'Toole, like all of those movies, they kind of were closer to the truth. But if Robin Hood was like, for example, Robin Hood was an accurate thing, then most of the landowners at that time would have been Moors too, because just going back into the war banners and the sigils and the family crests of the time, they landed there and they conquered large swathes of the northern British Isles. Yeah,
And
but even to call them Isles is like that's already more so. I mean,
mhm.
there's so much. Like, yeah, a Black Knight. They refer. Oh, who is this guy? He's a knight and he's black. Well, he must be a Moor because that's who he. Yeah. So they had a lot of truth in these old films, but I think that that's hidden now. That's even harder to find.
So right here we see silver. We see, as kids we grew up seeing these knights in armor. But if you're in battle, I want everyone to look at his feet. How can you maneuver properly in defense? There had to have been something else. And then look at his face, y'all. How did he breathe? How did he see? And so, one, I would look at it as some type of electrical device to maybe not get shocked now. And then if we look at the netting, if we look to the left, You see, if you guys remember, the knights had some type of netting that you see when people are dealing with electricity because you can't see. But Charles, you sent me a picture of this.
Yeah.
You explain, were the people under the armor extraterrestrials?
No. There's nothing. There's no possibility for an extraterrestrial in this realm. There are too many layers now. There are too many layers that have been added to it. The reason why like the reason why these creatures existed was because they were already here. They were like the final evolution of a certain lineage. Sometimes they had faces of what we consider to be animals today. But if we knew what animals actually were, they're just downgraded, devolved creatures that were killing everyone. So this creature would not have wanted people to see its face. It obviously went against its own hierarchy and decided to show its face. I don't know if this is Belgium or Austria. It's just not shown. Like you can research for a long time, but someone has to come up with it, find it, tell it. Whoever told it to me found it from someone else. So it's just happening because the internet is starting to pick up and our consciousness is starting to raise up. But yes, when I initially saw this image, I thought it was just like a decapitated like sculpture. But then you have to start asking yourself, well, are the sculptures real people? Are they petrified real people, or was this a creature? And obviously, this was some kind of worm. Now, we call it a worm because we associate it with the very lowest frequency version of a worm, which is just something that is fertilizing the ground and helping our decomposition of biological matter. But at a certain point in time, everything was bigger and everything was more intelligent. So if we carry on the way we are also one day going to end up just on the ground eating things and just existing without any consciousness. We are the last ones who haven't been downgraded. Dogs used to rule the world. The word God, the word dog
God,
used to rule the
atomic
world. Dogs
dog.
did. Like you
Yeah,
can go into Russian. It's not long ago. You can go into Russian Orthodox cathedrals and
they're
you will
called
see.
canopars. What's the name?
Is it
Sit,
Sinisafali? Yeah, something like that.
keep going. He's
Yeah,
talking
so
about
so
the
they used to
dog.
rule they were more powerful and stronger than any Roman legion. The Romans used to fear them. They used to make sculptures of them, worship them like gods. The Egyptians worshipped them like gods. They called them Set, right? You got Sets, you got a specific dog-faced man. You had
Anubis.
eagle-faced man, wolf. I if you see a dog today, it kind of is there consciousness wise, but biologically, physically, it's shrunken. It's now got three kind of four legs. It's got no arms anymore. It kind of can't stand up straight. But the people who know, first of all, you have to accept it. Most people will never accept it. A dog used to walk upright like you and me. Dragons used to exist and they could fly. And then they were destroyed because obviously, who doesn't want to hunt a dragon and kill it and become famous, right? So dogs were also removed. All the cynocephali were removed. The Berlin bear is not a bear; it's a dog. It's a dog man. We used to worship them. You had the Tartary and the Berberi. One was ruled by the dog kings or the god dogs, and then one was ruled by these giant griffins, which also obviously were part of the reserve army for some of the queens of the original America. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, if you say that to someone, most people will say, "No, there's no dog. What are you talking about?" But Saint
But
Christopher
look at
was
the
a
picture,
dog-headed
guys.
saint.
Look at what he's saying right
Yeah.
here. We're looking at historical pictures of dogmen right here throughout
Yeah.
antiquity. So people might say, oh, it's representation, it's mythology. No, these beings existed. And that's when we talk about the reset of different creations. Even people right here born with faces in their stomach. So go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah, I mean, those people, I think they inspire a lot of modern kind of stories, and especially children's stories. They always have a lot of wolves in there, walking wolves, talking wolves. And
Werewolves
then you
have
have
it
obviously
all.
like SpongeBob is obviously the Blemmy with which, because they didn't have necks, they had their faces inside their chests.
Mm,
And
wow.
Mr. Potato Head. I mean, I've seen so many of them of those. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. The king of the land was a Blemmy.
Wow.
So, I mean, some of these stories like about giants that children.
You're breaking up again.
Sorry.
I wonder, is it your mic sometimes?
Um. Yeah. I mean, it could be the mic. Who knows?
It's clear now.
Should be fine. It's just the
Oh,
mic.
it's chocolate. All right, keep going. My bad. I just want the viewers to not be typing, Jason, we can't hear him. You're going
Oh
in.
yes.
So
I'm sorry. I'm
it's
sorry.
probably the powers that be when we get on these conversations somehow, some way. But go ahead. So
Yep.
possibly you were going ahead and talking about the beams before I accidentally cut you off.
Yeah.
Underneath
Under.
these,
Yeah.
so
So
go
I mean,
ahead.
yeah. The fact that biological creatures existed in the past that probably still exist in certain other realms that we are not allowed to access. I mean, there is a lot of land beyond the ice wall where there could be different species being preserved, in endangered species. How did this creature, for example, control a large, steel, iron, armor, chest plate, breastplate, helmet? Well, I don't know the biology of it because this is all I have. This is all I've been given. This is all we're able to find. But it probably could control. I mean, do you know the stories of knights? There are many myths about knights in Britain where the knights never actually showed their faces.
I,
And
I've heard stories of them knights turning into wolves in
yeah, so
battle.
so they could maybe shapeshift. I mean, um, there are creatures on Earth that never die. They constantly replicate, and those are kind of worms. Those are sort of like. I mean, we have categorized everything into insect, reptile, mammal, bird. Um,
Well, that's the
but
Dewall. That's
but
the
I don't know
Dewall.
if that's a good idea sometimes because there are creatures that exist outside of that, and we're kind of giving them free reign because we don't categorize them.
Well,
But
that's
we are constantly, sorry, we're constantly discovering new species. So why not have a larger worm that could interact with society at a higher consciousness? I mean, the only reason why we're at the consciousness we're at is because we started eating mushrooms. We started eating a kind of mushroom that enhanced our brain functions. Monkeys are known to do that. Monkeys love, I think it's New Zealand, the monkeys target the cowpats because on top of the cowpats, the cow dung, that's where the mushrooms grow that give them this higher consciousness. So the monkeys are intelligent enough to know where to go to eat the mushrooms that give them this higher consciousness. This red hat, I think it's called the
and that
mushroom.
matches to me with the goddess Hathor in ancient Kemet. She
Mm,
represents the cow deity with the horns. And what does the cow produce? Magic mushrooms. And when you eat
yep.
the magic mushrooms, it decalcifies your pineal gland, which allows you to receive what we call etheric energy, what I call information, infinite information. And when you eat the magic mushroom, it's like working out. Your brain develops, you get more intelligent. So once again, this is why the
Mm,
government makes magic mushrooms and plant medicine illegal, is because once we rediscover that the true university is in the fungus, that the fungus is actually older than the so-called human. The fungus is older than plants. Literally, the fungus, when you
yeah.
eat the
Do
fungus, you get all of the information because you're eating, you are what you eat. And so when we study the Olmecs and the Mayans in the Mississippi, Washita, Choctaw, what were they called? They were called mushroom cultures. It's because those
yeah.
civilizations ate mushrooms. And so imagine being born into a society where drinking ayahuasca was normal. So instead of going into a bar to get drunk with spirits that are low level, alchemists, alcohol. Imagine bars that were set up where you could eat mushrooms or ayahuasca and you could
Yeah.
travel. This is why you find tobacco and cocaine in Egyptian mummies, because the concept of what we call drugs has been changed because they put so many chemicals and all these things and altered it. Imagine an ancient world where it was a so-called drug culture when we use natural medicine or natural plants and fungus to raise our frequencies. But to connect it to the parasites, if you notice, they say that a lot of our celebrities, you can find pictures of celebrities from the 1800s. And if you watch Queen of the Dam and all these movies, they talk about the vampires or the immortals, like Charles is talking about, humanoid people and other entities that can travel interdimensionally. And they already have taught us that there's a thing called the death gene. So there were priesthoods and people that learned to cut off that so-called death gene and could be hit what we call immortality. And also the parasites. The parasites would jump into different rulers, and that's what we talk about possibly in the canaptic jars. And that's why they preserve them in honey for one day, or they still do. They're looking for these parasites so they could put it in them, and they teach us that these parasites have all the genetic information. If Charles is correct, when they put these parasites in them, they're able to download an unlimited amount of information. So once again, watch Stargate SG-1 and the Goa'uld, and they speak of us as so-called humans and other interstellar civilizations going to war with these parasites. So right
Yeah.
here we have a picture that says oldest known parasite found in 6,200-year-old skeleton. And then ancient toilet reveals the Crusaders had parasites in their poop. And when the Moors came, the Europeans were infested with what? Parasites. So once again, parasites are a part of history, and it's another hidden aspect to our reality of what we're dealing today with people being taken over by these parasites. And that's why you see most people acting the same. No matter what race they are, most people are basically they're under a host from these parasites, and they use the news, they use music, they use TV to feed the host, and they teach us that these electrical frequencies are on a certain hertz. Most likely it feeds those parasites, and they're able to communicate, and now they're able to control people on what they wear, what they think. And that's what weakens our tourist field, and it allows other entities to hop in. So now we're dealing with a parasite taking over your body and entities that vibrate on another frequency, what they call ghosts, spooks, and things of that nature. But when you're vibrating on a high frequency, you can tap into those higher gods. And that's when we get into having access to the ancient technology again. And that's what I believe we're dealing with, is that people had technology and they were able to go around certain lands with people who didn't have technology, and they either empowered those people or they manipulated those people and said that they were gods. And that's why the story of the ancient gods are basically of people who are humanoid having technology. So go ahead, Charles. So when we look at these
Mhm.
knights, you have a picture here with knights with a sword, and I see electricity coming out of the shield.
Yeah.
So they say that the tongue is a sword, and you were speaking of that the sword might have been activated through the words. Can you go into
Yeah.
that?
Well, so we have the sword or the word of the word, and then it's inside a stone. So all you have to do is add an S or a J to the words, and everyone gets confused. but it's actually the word, and the stone is actually the tone of your word, the level of frequency. How high do you go? And if you get the frequency right, I mean, we've known like sopranos, like opera singers, not the TV show about the mafia. So opera singers, a soprano has a way to manipulate their voice at a certain frequency. You can Google this on, or you can search for this on YouTube. At a certain frequency, they can break glass, they can break crystal vases, all kinds of things. So the sound is really, I mean, we can't do much damage with our own musical instrument, which is the sacred geometry of the human skull. We can create a lot of sound. Like young children can scream incredibly loud. It can really kind of hurt your ears. You can sing. Obviously, if you hear someone sing beautifully, it really affects you. People can start crying just because they hear a beautiful opera or a power ballad or something. So the sword is your word. It's not a real literal sword, and the stone is the tone, the frequency of your word. So if you speak in a high pitched voice, if you listen to classical music in a high pitched voice, it can literally bring a whole building down. Have you ever heard of the story of Jericho?
Yes.
Again, not the TV show, the actual Jericho, the city.
But it's
So Jericho City, because everything is now duplicated. There's always a light in front covering everything. So you got to get beneath that veneer of a movie or a chocolate bar or a
well,
concert or
that's the
something.
word, and that's what
Yeah,
it is for me. It's a sound.
yeah,
To me, even in Masters of the Universe, they had a object, and it was a musical instrument that opened portals. They call
yeah.
harp. Harp today is used to open portals and control the weather, but in ancient times they used the harp
Mm.
to open portals to bring in entities. They called them angels. So that lets
Yeah,
us know
but yeah,
that a certain
but
frequency.
yeah, you do have real angels. I mean, we do have guardian angels, but those actually, we get those when we're born. So it's not something that you have to like achieve a frequency or something. But all of the music now has been recalibrated. I think in the 1920s, they say the Rothschilds completely recalibrated all of the public, like they control the music industry basically. So you get very low frequency, dark messages in the songs. Some of them, it's just the tone, the frequency is like a almost like a death cult frequency, and nobody's allowed to go above a certain, like I think it's 524 hertz. If you go above that, your music won't be played. So it is about frequency, but you can go back to the old classical music that completely recalibrates you. So classical music is so important. All of the kind of old sort of 1800s music, pop music now is never going to be the right frequency, unless you're literally playing your own instrument in your own house.
You were speaking of Van Halen and the Van
Yeah,
Halen belt. I thought that
yeah.
was brilliant, brother. I didn't think of that.
That
But when you
sound,
were
that sound as well. That sound as well. Yeah.
when you were speaking, though, I thought of a movie. It's called Black Roses, y'all. 1986. It's a horror film that I have, and basically the rock stars look human, but really they're demons, and they use music to hypnotize people to do bad things. And that's what we're dealing with as well. So I thought that was interesting while you were on that subject of the music industry. Basically having influence. The movie Josie and the Pussycats also spoke on that, how the
Yeah.
government uses artists to control fashion, and they use the headphones to put a certain frequency and put subliminal messages underneath the music in tones to make society sick. Maybe that's why they call it music, and maybe it was called Moo something else, because
Yeah.
Mu is the island of Mu or Mers. So imagine the musical instruments that we used in ancient times. Clearly, it was to
Mm.
open up for me portals of some sort. And that's what these instruments were, once again.
But actually, do you know how they treat parasites? How they used to treat parasites?
Sound, they would kill it with sound, correct? And
Sound
light.
waves.
And
You
that's
get the
what
right frequency, they disintegrate.
yes. And that's
So they
what it
were
is.
building the armor to protect themselves. These parasites might have been quite big at one
Mm,
point, as big as
mm,
people. Yeah.
mm.
Because
Wow.
that sculpture of that worm inside that suit of armor protecting himself from
Let's
from
see.
from obvious high divine frequencies, right? Now,
Yes.
now that is a sculpture made out of marble. That's not some plastic toy. That's a someone spent years, some artisan, some mason, stonemason, carved that for years
Mm,
to create the perfect sculpture for some royal palace or some government building. And there were probably dozens of those. There were probably many of those that obviously have been destroyed, but not this one. And behind that sculpture, that's what this photo doesn't show you. Behind the sculpture is a
mm.
really big worm face,
Wow.
but it's not on that. There's another picture that I found, but it's got a copyright watermark. But there's a massive worm face, which almost looks like some kind of like giant sort of like um, uh, sort of alien creature. Yeah. So I think our aliens are just like local parasites that we have
There
to
it
a
is.
large part destroyed. I mean, we've destroyed them to a large part. But have you seen the movie June?
Dune, Dune, with the serpents in the sand.
Yeah. So
Yes.
that's. Do you know what the actual inspiration was for those large worms that live underground?
No, I remember the movie Tremors though.
Yeah, it was just like that, like the movie Tremors. They're actually worms that feed off the mushrooms and then grew in size because of that. That was
Mm.
the story behind the idea for June, that these worms were feeding off the mushrooms and they became bigger.
And
Yeah,
this is the worm statue, y'all, but bigger.
yeah. So they wanted to be human so bad. Look at these guys. Look at
Wow.
these. They wanted to be human so bad. They hid their faces because they were scared. Do you know how knights used to be glorified? The real ruling knights in ancient British stories. They used
No.
to their only contact with women was the women's tears had to be placed on a serviette or a tissue and then given to the knight, and then they would give the knight the tears of a woman. That's all they wanted, and they would
Mm.
just pour water over their helmets without taking the helmets off to cool them down and stuff. This is all in like ancient law.
Wow.
And they would never take those helmets off ever because they didn't want anyone to see their faces.
Would they
It's so
live in the
crazy because it all
castle?
fits together. The more research you do, the more it fits together. The whole thing.
Did they say where these beings live? Did they live in the castles?
They just stood there. Have you like in Game of Thrones? There's a guy that dies and then he gets brought back to life. Maybe they were zombified, like dead people that they would in inhabit and help them continue to live for a while. And yeah. Because
So
you
what
have
do
that
we?
in nature. You have a lot of creatures where the parasites continue to make the animal move. Once they have eaten the brainstem, they can control the
Yeah.
animal.
Yes, the parasites. We were talking about that in the
So they
movie.
become transparent. Like the skin becomes transparent because all the
Mm,
melanin is gone, right? Because they're feeding off the electricity. So
mm.
you just get this transparent like butterfly or transparent looking snail, but it's still moving, but you can see inside there's just a worm controlling everything. Yeah.
Interesting.
This is
And
part
that
of nature. This is a real part of nature. Like,
and then that would be also why it would be best to have more neuromelanin, because they say
right.
that when it comes to entities, that the more neuromelanin that you have, the less these lower forces are able to jump into us. And that's why they
Yeah.
give our communities alcohol, bad food, low vibration gods and entities to worship, so the
Yeah.
divine people can get possessed, basically. And that's what we're dealing with as well, because when we're vibrating on a frequency, who knows yet? And that's what we're headed to. What they call God, or Allah, Asar, or the stars, heading to that perfection is when I believe we're deserving to get our machines back. And maybe this is the time, maybe during that time, people were born into a society to where, just like now, kids are being born with the laptop, the cell phone, and they
Mm.
became reliant on this technology. And
Yeah.
they no longer understood that it was within, that the divine, like we were saying earlier, that we are the battery. And if we don't understand that we are the battery, we can be manipulated to be used, like Morpheus teaches Neo in the Matrix, is that
Right.
humans are being used as a battery to basically create a reality for these other entities and parasites to live in. But when we're vibrating on a higher frequency, when we're aware of our torus field and want to raise that torus field, those
Mm.
entities cannot vibrate when you're in that reality. Therefore, that's how they die. They don't exist when we're vibrating on a high frequency. That's how they
Yeah.
die.
So
And
then they have to employ humans that they can control. So when you get that black eye, that's actually a very powerful parasite being placed into your eye. It would never
yeah,
get past the blood-brain barrier ever unless you placed it yourself willingly into your eye. That's when you get that black eye. And then you can be controlled. That means that you'll have ideas you never had before. You may have great knowledge. You may be able to speak amazingly. You may have great charisma all of a sudden, but there's a price to pay. And I think that's what the Bible's all about. It's all about getting a higher frequency. So Enoch, the book of Enoch,
you
was
say
always
Enoch, keep going.
the
Enoch and
book.
Elon Musk while
Yeah,
he's
Enoch,
talking.
Elon, right? So you've got the yin and the yang, the up and the down, the female and the male. So Enoch was definitely a male, I think. But in the book of Enoch, you get that vision of the flood, the removal of the parasites, and but obviously they always come back. So you've got I think it's also an abbreviation Enoch for yeah for like the things that make up the human body. So you've got your energy, your oxygen, your carbon, right? Your hydrogen. Yeah. Can you see that the Bible is actually not talking about a real person? It's talking about an abbreviation for everything that makes up the human machine.
Anatomy.
So,
Yeah.
it's really about your brain, which is the most powerful thing. So you've been given that at birth. You've already got everything you need. It's just that Enoch talks about a pillar of beauty, which is a twisted column, i.e., your backbone.
Mm,
And it has it's made of pure white marble, which is obviously your bone marrow, where you have your electric blood kind of transistors, and then 3.5 feet high, on which there should be a cube of agate. So that's the cube. So again, if you pervert that imagery, you end up with a negative version of the cube. So you have Saturn, the cube of Saturn. Have you heard of that? The black cube.
yes.
Yeah, that symbolism that they've stolen and turned into something else. It's actually very positive energy. All of these numbers, we shouldn't be scared of the numbers like 666. It doesn't belong to the devil or anything. It's just another number that's being taken away from you, and you think negative thoughts about it. Negative thoughts bring down your frequency, and you don't understand anything. You walk around the world like a zombie, not really realizing things. And then you have the measurement, which is so you have the measurements, which always are the same. So that's the Fibonacci sequence. That's the signature of God. Those Roman cubes they found everywhere. I think that's Moorish geometry, which makes me very suspicious about how many emperors were actually African or actually American. How many Roman emperors were actually Moorish. I mean, it's quite a large amount. I don't think it's just three or four. But yeah, that's a geometrical
A
device.
dodecahedron.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
if you
so they
watch
already knew
movies,
about that
yeah,
thousands of years ago.
if you watch movies, it opens up portals in movies. It's also an orb
Yeah.
to
It's a
record
measurement device,
everything.
essentially measurement. Yeah.
And then
So you know where you are. It's like a compass. Yeah.
in the movie Arrival with Charlie Sheen, it comes in, it reads everything, and then eventually it sucks in everything. Watch the movie with Charlie Sheen, The Arrival, and at the end of the movie, the little black boy, the the Martian, he's an alien. So right there. So I was
Oh.
gonna ask you, what did you think of the Roman mystery dodecahedron. And once
Okay.
again, was
I've
this
actually
when we
seen some
see
of those.
rulers, I,
Yeah.
this to me is proof that what we call so-called humans, some of us not only had technology, but we were able to naturally ascend. But let's say I had this device and I was able to rip through space and time, and that means that
Mm.
there's brothers and sisters who are able to bend space and time, whether they're on another landmass or another dimension, and that's what the government's trying to find uh, while they distract us. Because when we study the government, they're studying us. The ancient world is ancient Moorish technology. Look to the right, y'all. Charles was talking about the Romans. Look at his helmet. It looks like an electronic device. So if you're getting etheric information, and those strips might be like little antennas, are able to what you call it, suck up the energy, or so you don't burn up. So once again, look at the Roman headdress and compare it to the Egyptian headdresses that we say were electronic devices, y'all. And what if these devices, since there were pyramids, obelisks, battery packs, and you were able to harness your Taurus energy, that's how you activated these devices. And so what we're looking at is an ancient device that's been stripped of its metals and the elements to activate it. And this is what I'm trying to find. But I also know that it takes knowledge, love, wisdom, and understanding when we get these devices to properly use them. So go
Mm.
ahead when you were speaking of, because it's saying that a soldier looking through the dodecahedron would be able to estimate the size of the scene through it. In this example, the known height
Yep.
of the Roman vixillum allows the viewer to vary the use aperture pairs until he finds the pair through the vexillum best fits the determined range or distance. And this is the image of, so just like the
But
copper rich,
there's only one place on earth where they were teaching that at that time.
where
You know?
Kemet, where were they teaching it?
No, like Ethiopia, right? One of the first universities, uh,
Timbuktu.
Iberian Peninsula, I think was maybe the second one. I don't know, but they were only teaching that in one part of the world. So I
Mm,
don't know how that is even called Roman. I mean, it's obviously called Roman because it was found in Europe, but they had those all over Europe because that's where obviously the Moors came in
but
711 AD,
the
which we've spoken
Romans
about
were
before.
the Romans were in the United States, because we have to remember the
Yeah,
original Romans are Moors, the
yeah.
Etruscans, the
I
Martians.
found I
Uh,
found Roman buildings in East Asia, China, Taiwan. Yeah,
I've seen that video. It's because
yeah.
when we look at
It's
Carthage,
insane. It's insane, bro. It's so scary. I'll never forget that moment. It was I had like a deja vu for the first time in like 10 years. It was insane, man. Like,
they
but they're obviously trying to remove that. But I'm
they
glad that I
erase
found
it.
it.
They're
You know,
erasing history, bro.
they're
They're erasing.
erasing it so fast here, man. One building I was gonna do a video of, I took a photo and it was gone like the next month when I came back. You know.
Same here. I was looking up crop circles in Riverside County, and the ones that I found, I had a picture of. A few months later, they're gone. So that's interesting that you said that. But also, you guys, Marvin the Martian. What did Marvin the Martian look like? He was a Moor. Marvin the Moor, Martian, the Etruscan, the Roman,
Mm.
and Bugs Bunny. So go look up Marvin the Martian's first episode with Bugs Bunny, and basically the government went to Mars and went to steal uh, Marvin's technology, and the dog stole the information. Dog Sirius, right? The dog star. Sold the information to Bugs Bunny, and Bugs Bunny basically was a secret agent, and they blew up Mars. So coincidentally, Elon Musk, and you're talking about the eye. And what do we see right here? We see Elon Musk with the eye. So what do you feel about that when we look at Elon Musk and he's in the White House with a black eye, y'all?
I
And
don't know
Charles,
why. Yeah, why is he coming into the White House with a black eye?
because they're letting you know. You
Yeah,
just but
he's
he's
definitely
on
communicating
drugs.
something intentionally, I think. I mean, there's no
Intent
makeup there. He could cover that
no.
up.
So those who don't know, they said, "Oh, he got punched by his kid," but you just explained again that when they put the parasite in your eye, some say the left eye, but when they put the parasite in the eye, Duke Asir the Duke of Tears on our episode said when they put the worm inside their eye, they punch you
Mm.
so that the worm gets in your eye and it gives you a black eye. But when the worm attaches to you, attaches to the reptilian part of your brain and it controls you. Possibly that's why you always see him glitching, whether he's a robot glitching, an extraterrestrial in a human spacesuit glitching like Total Recall when Arnold Schwarzenegger had on the spacesuit. And eventually, because they also say that some of the extraterrestrials had the technology that can cloak and that to you they appear human, but it's just an illusion using certain technology. Either way, we're talking about Elon Musk, one of the leaders of the world, coming in the White House, high on drugs, glitching with a black eye in the corner of his eye, and it looks like it's coming down his veins. We just showed you a parasite that was in rulership in ancient times, but it's not ancient times, y'all. They simply use numbers. They added numbers to the calendar in the Gregorian calendar to throw us off, to make us think that it was further than what it was. And what I think is that they're using a Men in Black type of device to wipe out people's memory, or it's simply like Charles is saying, is that so many people have been wiped out, taken over by parasites, or other generations were killed, that we possibly might be one of the first generations of a past apocalypse, and that
Yeah.
we are the children of the Matrix, because there's no way in the world that we're finding Roman architecture all throughout the United States, all throughout Taiwan, all throughout Asia. We're finding ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs all throughout the Americas. So clearly, the
Yeah. Yeah.
reality that they've taught us is a lie. And we do not want to so-called die believing in a lie, because you won't be able to graduate. There's no way in the world that when you get to the other side, that you're going to be able to get to higher realms if you don't have enough information. And clearly our ancestors built all these devices, these pyramids, these mausoleums for a reason. And so this is what we're getting into this episode. One who we're at war with, one proving that we had electricity and the importance. So what's the importance, Charles, of
Mm.
knowing that we had electricity in the ancient world?
Because you can heal yourself. You can create an alkaline environment in which no parasite, no cancer, no illness can thrive. It's very important. So you can use homeopathy. You can recalibrate water before you drink it. You can use frequencies. It's just truth that's been there long before I was born. It's going to be there long after I die. You know, if I die, I might never die because I've worked it out. I don't know. But Tesla was a real person. Don't let anyone tell you he was not a real person. This is um this is a banknote from, I've never shown this to anybody live, but this is a banknote from Yugoslavia. Now they separated those two empires, the Czech Republic and Yugoslavia. But he was on a banknote. You you don't do that to someone who is a fake imaginary person. Don't let AI fool you. This is a real man. He went to various pyramids all around the world, not just Egypt, and he studied them and he got the electro he he got thousands of patents from that information. I think that's the Capitol building in Yugoslavia. Yeah. I don't know how much 5,000 would get you. Probably
Mm.
not much. But this is 1993. This is not that old. Yeah, he's a real person. So he went there and he studied it and he found out, just like I'm doing, just like you're doing. He didn't have the internet, obviously. He had to go there himself. But once you realize that a European inventor who was obviously disrespected for most of his life, all this stuff was plagiarized and copied by British and American inventors that then claimed that it was their invention. He wasn't inventing anything. He was just rediscovering information of ancient civilizations. Why is everyone throughout history so focused on electricity? Is it simply because they want to use a Leyden jar to light up their ship hundreds of years before anybody knew about electricity? No, they were trying to heal themselves, because the most important thing of our generation is to realize that we are electrical beings. Our heart is not pumping blood. That doesn't even make sense. Our heart is not pumping blood around our bodies. Our heart is an electromagnetic coil. When you unravel the heart, the human heart, it is an electromagnetic coil. And it
Mm,
is creating electricity, and that's powering us. We are an electrical being. Everything is electricity. Everything is part of this Tartarian empire that created buildings that were channeling etheric energy. They don't want you to know this. They don't want you to think about this. But we have to move on. We don't have time for this crap anymore. We have to save ourselves. As they level up and start to take away our freedoms, we will all level up, because God will always win. The truth will always prevail. The Nephilim are going to be reborn. They're looking for some antichrist. They're creating their own prophecies, right? They're creating their own prophecies. Yeah, they're using the letter X all the time to tell you that everything's upside down, male's female, female's male. But the rise of the Nephilim will happen again if we allow it. They will be allowed to walk around our streets. You know, they'll be allowed. These people with no internal dialogue will be allowed to. Parasites will take over again if we don't, if we're not vigilant. You know, because they tried to destroy us already. Like, they've done it, right? They've done it so many times. So why? What are we waiting for? Why? You can pretend everything's fine, but if you're not happy, then don't pretend to be happy, because you are more powerful than they are. You have your electromagnetic protection. You have your body part that goes up into the sky. They don't have any of that. They're scared of us.
mm,
Yeah. Why do you have people with Bibles throughout history walking into lions' dens? Huh?
mm,
Because they have that level of faith that they know the lion is not allowed to eat you.
mm.
They know that the fear is the only thing to fear. The only thing to fear is fear itself, right? I mean, if you look at Enoch, by the way, I have the book of Enoch. If anybody wants to talk about that, we can do that another time. 69 verse 4, the nature of the first Yegon. That's the name of one of the brothers of Goliath. That is the one who led astray all the sons of God. The most powerful one isn't the one that you hear about in the story. He was just a meat shield. Okay, he was just the one that David killed and talked about and wrote about in the Bible. The real there's more than one of these guys. There were a lot of these guys. Okay, that's why they removed the book of Enoch from the Bible. How sacrilegious is it to remove the most important book that was given to us by God, so we understand who we are and what we're capable of, to just remove entire pages from it? That's like cutting a piano in half and saying you can only have 66 keys.
Mm.
They've overstepped so many lines. I don't know why they're allowed to exist. Maybe if they didn't exist, we wouldn't wake up. I don't know. Maybe that's the game. Maybe this is just like some kind of playpen, some kind of sandpit. Where I mean, you'd be surprised what humans are capable of. I mean, yeah. So we were led astray through the daughters of men, and the second was named Aspiel. That sounds like Baal as well. And imparted to the holy sons of God evil counsel, and led them astray, so that they defiled their bodies. That's always the first thing, isn't it? Defile your body, weaken
Yes.
your electromagnetic power. That's the first thing. Drink
Mm,
alcohol. Drink the spirits. Let the spirits come inside you. Let the parasites run free, because now it's an acidic environment, and they love that. Yeah.
mm,
Cut if they cut you off on your way to work, you start swearing. Acidic shit happens in your body now, because now your body's getting ready for war. Your muscles are, the acidity is building in your muscle to free you up to defend yourself, because your body's this incredible machine. So yeah. So it says they led astray, defiled their bodies with the daughters of men. So it could be that abstaining from sex could heighten your frequency. like that. Is that hard to do? That's hard to do, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's like,
I'm reading this book. It talks about the sun gods of Peru,
what's
and
the
that's
name for that where you stop having sex for like a year?
abstinence.
Abstaining, right?
Yeah, abstaining. So they said that some of the priests of the sun gods abstained from sex, or they said procreation was actually bad, and that's how you were able that
Yeah.
you force yourself to come back, and that's
They gave
why.
us knowledge, though. They gave us knowledge, and they said, hey, this is, by the way, you can lie. What? You can lie. Huh? You can also kill. What? How do you do that? Oh, this is metal, by the way. You mix these things together, now you have metal. It
Ab-
started like that. It
yeah.
started like that. And now we're on, oh, this is how you annoy someone by trolling them. This is where we are today.
Mm.
This is how you cut off someone's electromagnetic flow of energy. Okay.
What is the Roman standards? Are those the antennas that we see on top of castles? And for me, I see different geometric patterns. Does each pattern bring in a different frequency, which would mean a different radio station, whether it's from a different planet, galaxy, or entity? And then, with that being said, would that represent a different family or family bloodline, like a crest? Is that what we're looking at right here?
Yeah, yeah. So I think that you have, obviously, you have the south and the east pointing eagle. We've already discussed that. That's also the Roman Moor Empire. So you have Tartaria, Bavaria. You have different gods, but they're still united, right? So I think the Moors and the Aryans were united, and I hope we can try to get to that again.
Well,
Find that
Kanye West
unity.
is doing that, bro, and that's another thing I
Yeah,
want. It now that we have these few episodes, everyone now pay attention to what Kanye West is doing. Pay attention to what Duke Asir the Duke of Tears is saying when we learn about the Black Nazis, when we learn about the Black Hitlers, when we look at Kanye West wearing the Griffin, when we see Kanye West with the Black Dragon. That's symbology, y'all, of the Moors and the Moors of technology taking over. And then when we see who the so-called enemy is to humanity, there were different sects of different colored people who came together, whether it was dark skinned, dirty Moors, pale skinned Europeans, dirty Asians, basically like the temple is set, the priesthoods who cause the mischief versus the priesthoods who want to bring in the knowledge. So that's what we're also dealing with. So
yeah,
go ahead. I wanted to ask you a question as well. When I look at the knights, and also when we see some of the Moors with the suits on, what if it was to travel through space in these shrines? I noticed that these shrines are in Egypt and they look like a phone booth. It looks like a seat. They say that God
yeah.
sits on the throne. I know that's the pineal gland in our consciousness, but also physically, when I look at the hieroglyphs of Osiris, he's sitting on a box, like you were saying, a cube. What if this possibly is a device for interstellar travel? Because now when I look at Bill and Ted's excellent adventure on this picture right here,
Yeah.
it looks like a phone booth. And then even in
Yeah.
Doctor Who, y'all, you
Well, that's a
see
Faraday cage. I mean, they've just copied a Faraday cage. So,
what it, now explain what that is.
a Faraday. So Faraday was an inventor, I guess you could call him, or an electrical genius who tried to heal people using electricity. But initially, he was trying to harness electricity. But what they don't tell you is that he was also doing what Tesla was doing. He was kind of continuing. They were all kind of friends, you know. There's photos of Tesla and Einstein together. There's photos, you know. They're part of a group of
Yeah,
people that were sharing information. And but yeah, this originates in Kemet, where obviously all chemistry comes from Kemet. That's where the word comes from, chemistry, right? the tree of
Yes.
life, chemetry, right? So so chemet or chemistry originates from chemet, but the location of chemet has changed, so you can't obviously, that's something that's changed, which I mentioned before. But yeah, so Faraday is a really good person to look into, but it does take more time to explain what a Faraday cage was, how he was trying to heal himself and his wife initially. Yeah, like all
Mm,
of these great, like for example, um, the monster of Frankenstein. Those stories, they're all taken from using electricity to bring people back to life. Or I think it was his daughter or his wife he was trying to bring back to life. Yeah. So
that's
it
what I
was,
think those cages were.
that's the ultimate motivation. I think that was for him anyway. Yeah.
Where was it? I was trying to find it again. Right here, y'all. So whether maybe if it wasn't an interstellar device,
It's a spiral though.
uh,
It's a copper spiral.
so
Yeah.
because look at this, y'all. If you look at the top, look at you see these are like electrical coils in the form of a cobra. So if those are all activated and there's gold and different rubies and copper, what if that can open a portal to transport you to different land masses or different dimensions, or like Charles was saying, to basically heal you?
Yeah.
And so we were talking about these orbs, these balls that the Moors are holding, and then right here they're holding that the rod, and then she has a crown. So now that we're looking at society as advanced and electrical objects like the obelisk, the pyramids being activated, and you knowing your Taurus field, can you explain this picture right here, this Moorish ruler, this queen or empress, and the devices that she's holding and the purpose? And
Oh,
then look
so
at what she's wearing.
I can
The
tell you about
clothing.
her.
Okay.
Yeah, her name is Queen of Sheba.
Wow.
She was actually, I think she was one of the wives of Solomon. I'm thinking. Yeah. Yeah. So she was as you can see, high melanin content, Moorish person. She was Queen of Sheba. Now, a lot of people would disagree with me when it comes to Solomon. Was Solomon also a melanated Moor man, or a man of the Moors, or black or Moor? But yeah, I mean, Solomon most most likely was, which is interesting. Solomon also had a temple where uh, he created a lot of great, amazing lesser keys of Solomon, which is a great topic. So, I mean, the Queen of Sheba, obviously, you can see she's of Moorish ancestry.
But the
Um,
devices,
she was
what?
also spoken of as being the most beautiful woman
Mm,
in the world, or something. I think that's why she was married to Solomon. Um, and
soulmate.
she's also in the Bible. She's also mentioned in Enoch as living in Memphis, I think.
Wow. And then you see the sisters who look like that in Memphis, Tennessee. And that's what Charles was also saying. So we
There are
got to
some
get
people who are going to hate this. We carry on, but this is logically, this is the truth. Like, Memphis was an island city. It was an island city, and I think it had naval access as well to the ocean. It's like
Mississippi
a star
River.
castle,
Yeah.
because they tell you star castles are there to protect against field guns and gunpowder. But
Mm.
but this is something centuries before that they had these star castles. What they were actually doing is harnessing electricity using water. So water, and I think water for Solomon, water was probably one of his main defensive techniques. He was creating natural barriers, uh, and yeah. So uh, like people who try to obviously attack him, and in the end, I think he was killed. Right, he was attacked. His kingdom was destroyed because he lost that God's blessing, and I think it's partly because of the demonic, demons that he tried to kind of fathom, or he started to deal with demons a lot. He had a lot of connection with demonic entities, also angels. But he created the keys of the lesser keys of Solomon, where he was starting to capture demons and control them. And he found a way to like control every demon. And it's usually something simple like rotten fish can control the demon. He can't escape from that point onwards. And then he would tell the demon, okay, can you build this for me, this temple or something? So a lot of the structures on Earth that can't be explained by human construction at the time, because we were relying on horses and carts and chisels, right? We didn't really have the ability to construct the temples that we see all over the United States and all over Europe.
We were
These gigantic cities, going up into the sky. I mean, if you look at like,
right here.
yeah, as we've done before.
We see
So those were built by demons that he summoned.
you
He
saying
had loads of them at one point. He had like, I don't know, how many did he have? Like 40, 50 demons at his disposal that would do what he wanted. Yeah. And
interesting.
he had sigils for each one that he would then control it using the sigil. So in the book of Enoch, all of this is in the book of Enoch. That's why it was taken out of the Bible. So it says that there's an island, there's a city, and it says, I can actually read it. Art thou better than Populus? No, that was situate among the rivers, that had the waters around about it, whose rampart was the sea, and her wall was from the sea. Every city, every empire was always referred to as a woman, because only women could rule. So that is another book that was removed from the Bible. I think that's Nahum chapter 3 verse 8. Interpreters of the biblical narrative mistakenly called the Great Lakes that surrounded the island a sea. It wasn't a sea, but they always used the word sea. So it's Dead Sea, Salt Sea, yeah. So Black Sea, yeah. But
Yes,
these weren't always oceans. They were, sometimes lakes. Yeah. So you also have the traditional location of Memphis in Africa. So there's another Memphis in Africa. So you have to have that balance. I think it's modern day Cairo, right?
yes,
So, yeah. Do you want me to carry on? There's loads of places.
yes. We could start ending it and closing it up. I had a
Okay.
picture for you also with the head pieces that we were talking about on the last episode. I brought up Back to the Future. Doc, he had a headpiece that was similar to what we look at with the rulers of ancient antiquity. And so, for me, once again, if the obelisks are set up, if we're in an advanced society, we see that Tesla and Thomas Edison were working on spirit devices, which means that there was a time to where we could build head devices not only to receive information from the ethers and other planets or spacecrafts, but what if these were our ancient Neuralinks? So when we see rulers with those headdresses, what if it was just like Doc? It was a brain analyzer. Hear how we see with the ancient rulers, Charles?
Yeah.
So what do you think of that? Have you studied these devices of the
Yeah.
ruler and this technology being not lost but hidden from us? And are the rulers today and people still using that? Because these are the things that I want to find. Because instead of plugging into a computer, what if I'm able to find these devices, put it on my head, activate it, and now get the knowledge of the universe instead of going to their universities?
Yeah. I mean, we have to remember that all the crystals have been removed. So every time we studied something, the crystals were already removed long ago. If you understand that the crystals were there, and you understand which crystals, like Aaron's breastplate, they were specific crystals. In the Bible, they already wrote down which crystal would reflect light as a color and which one wouldn't. And there's no way for them to know that unless they had some nanotechnology. So if the crystals were removed, then even that Roman cubit, Egyptian Roman cubit, that would have also had a crystal inside to help you, find what you want to find. I mean, we like crystals and things like that are quite expensive, but In Asia, they are still used for healing. They are used for religious ceremonies. It's very important to people. They have the crystals in their home, facing windows, facing doors to bring energy out. So living in Asia, I can compare those two because I know both cultures now. So yeah, the crystal is so important. So what's at the top of that is actually one of these. It's actually a type of uh, uh, like electromagnetic charge
It's what we're
inside
looking
it.
at right
Yeah, this would have
here.
been a crystal orb. This is a plasma dome. Yeah, a
Mm,
plasma orb. This is just something that people learn about at school. Yeah. So,
yeah.
so I mean, you would then put. I mean, electricity could be placed in there, or if it's high enough, can you see both sides? Because
Are
I
you
have one
seeing
of
the
these.
picture? Do you see? Is that
Yeah,
what
if it's
Sun
high
Ra is?
enough, you need the anode and the cathode to harness that, and then in this is a plasma orb. If it's made of crystal, I'm sure it would be much more powerful. It's
Wow.
just harnessing the etheric energy. But after 1920, they removed etheric energy from the periodic tables, so we can't prove that anymore, unfortunately. It's impossible to create a peer-reviewed paper on etheric energy if somebody removed it from the periodic table. So you've got to fight that first. You've got to get it back, which is impossible. No one's going to listen to you because all of those authors are going to lose their royalties from all their books they've written. They're going to have to redo the whole education system. But or you can join. You can join me and you talking about it. That's probably the closest you'll get to real truth now. Unfortunately. But yes, that is a beautiful picture, by the way.
Thank you. This
It
is
just
Sun
shows
Ra.
what it was. It wasn't a piece of metal or it was a crystal orb. I don't know where they found those or how they made them. That would be interesting to try to find out.
Yeah, this was
Yeah.
an artist called Sun Ra, and
How
he
did they
was.
know that those were crystals? Do you think it's connected to the Roman battles that they had with the Archimedes? I mean, Archimedes could have been Egyptian as
I,
well. I don't.
I definitely do. When I was in Mexico, I got a obsidian charm, and it actually, if I can find it real quick, it's not in here. But I have an obsidian charm that I got, and when I learned about it, the Mayans would build obsidian mirrors. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think we just said.
Oh, you started breaking up too. So the obsidian mirror, uh, they said that they could scry and see the future. And when the Spanish conquistadors took these obsidian mirrors, they were able to predict the future. And what they were doing, they said they were lying and said that they had this talent. Meanwhile, they had these obsidian mirrors. So possibly, for me, I look at the ancient world as a Wakanda, Star Wars. So the further we
Yeah,
go back, I say we were advanced. So when we came to this planet, we were advanced already. And so
yeah,
imagine being in a civilization where it's not illegal to be innovative. It's not illegal for magic
yeah.
mushrooms.
Imagine what you could achieve. Yeah,
Yes. And so I was asking you to tell the audience, when we say etheric energy or information, they might not be aware. For me, when I say etheric energy being pulled down from this device, I'm talking about knowledge that teaches you how to build a pyramid, knowledge that teaches you how to grow supreme crops,
yeah,
learn the sacred geometries and that language. And
yeah.
then when we see the jewelry around him, that's also electric magnetic. So if you're vibrating on this frequency, I can only imagine the information that I'm able to upload, because now that we're learning that the information that we were taught is low frequency, imagine the information that is still in the ethers from past civilizations that we just haven't grabbed yet. And that's the fun, y'all, is that there's
Mm.
still information that we can discover that doesn't come from AI, that doesn't come from
Oh
the
yeah,
robot. And that's what I believe that they fear. And that's the ultimate information, that there is a supernatural force, that there is a supernatural being on what they call a God or a creator, because we can see that in the Fibonacci sequence. And when we look at the pyramids, it's what Charles said. We're talking about a Wi-Fi civilization, and these devices were used for me for either interstellar travel, also for healing, and also communication between one another, and also communication on the other side, on which they call the dead. But when we but once we learn that we never die, that we simply transfer to another frequency, that means that we, in our so-called human body, can have a direct contact with the dead, which is really living. And
Yeah.
then we create devices to communicate. And that's what I believe that religion did. They cut off that ether cord by teaching us that we come from sin and that we're not divine, and by saying that only Jesus is the only divine person that can create these miracles. But when we look at the teachings of those who came before us, they're basically teaching us how to free ourselves. They're
Yeah.
teaching us that the planet had advanced technology, and there were mystery schools where you could learn to master yourself, and that yourself is a machine, and that once you discover your machine, you can fly, you can disappear, you can never die. But when you have a purpose of not wanting to die and wanting to learn this information, that's to me when the fun starts. When we learn that we never die and that we can create heaven on earth, that's
Yeah.
where it gets fun. Because basically, when I say creating heaven on earth, heaven means Oranos. Oranos means Orion. So that simply means when they say God lives in heaven, in a kingdom of heaven, for me, there is a planet where the extraterrestrial or gods are those who look like us, who are advanced, live, and that these beings that they call gods have supreme information, and enough information to create a seed to create a plant, a seed to create mushrooms. And that is evidence of our potential. So when we go back to the future, we discover that we are advanced. And once we apply it to the present, which is a gift, we now create our future. And that's what, to me, Back to the Future and Ready Player One. Have you seen the movie Ready Player One, Charles? Where
Yeah.
they're in the,
Yeah.
remember how
Yeah.
he turns around and everyone else is going in the wrong direction. But once he studies the past, he can go and study the past to propel himself into the future to get the information to free us all. And to me, that's what we're doing on this channel. We're tapping into information that still exists. There's information that Tesla left that's still in the ethers that we're able to grab onto. So, what would you create if you had an unlimited funding as we start ending the episode? What type of device would you create? Uh, like the ancients? Would you create a sword? Would you create a healing device? What
Yeah.
would you create?
I mean, I think the first thing everyone wants to make is the free energy device. I think that's the first step, and then I think after that, when you realize electromagnetic healing is kind of the next step. Um, so I think once you've created your own energy source, then you can prove that you've broken through that fifth wall, or you've changed reality to the extent where you're not relying on some power station, or even if it's just a small light source, even if it's just salt water, or a lemon or something. But then I think you want to start trying to heal or enhance your cognitive function. That seems to be my number one priority, to enhance my own cognitive function. I've also tried to use electroculture to try to maybe grow food, try to have the copper coils and the qubits, the copper, the qubit. Try to stick some of those into the soil and grow flowers and plants and fruit and vegetables faster. That's another great way to use that knowledge. And there's a lot of that online. A lot of people do that on online. So I mean, you can get one single tomato plant to give you thousands of tomatoes instead of just 10 or something. So that's pretty insane. I mean, but you have to see it yourself. You have to see it for yourself. So I mean, it's good looking at reels and people who show you how to do it step by step, but doing it yourself is pretty. It's empowering because it changes the theory to a practical application. But enhancing my own mental cognitive functions is with copper or with spirals or with any kind of jewelry or headdresses. I think that would be my first thing. Yeah. But we only have so much time. We still have to earn money and you know stuff to work and stuff. So, but
No, you
yeah, I
got.
mean, just get a lot of copper. It might be hard to get copper one day. I don't know.
I hear it. And to close it out, when you were talking about your device, look to the bottom right, y'all. You see the boat, and notice in the middle, you see the pillar of Osiris dressed like a woman. I see Mayan and Aztec as well. But doesn't it look like the Tesla coil, the
Yeah.
electrical devices? To me, that's a sign and a symbol that we were able to open some type of wormhole device, and that's what we're looking at. And then when we look here, we see the black hole and the white hole, y'all. So that will end it with that. Did we eventually get to the technology to where we were able to bend space and time, and that these hieroglyphs that we're looking at, these night suits, these different nights with the threads, were those also used to walk through the Stargate? Did you need some type of oil or a type of cloaking device to when you opened a portal to walk through the radiation possibly? So we'll end it with that. There it goes, right there. And you see the coil. Put it up, Charles.
Yeah. That's the oscillator. Yeah.
And so right there, y'all, to me, that's a hieroglyph that we were able to travel the stars. And so when, like Charles was saying, when we look at the ancient gods and deities, they're holding ancient devices. And so for me, it's proof that there's advanced civilizations on other land masses, other dimensions, on what we call planets. And to me, that's where we're headed to. And to me, that's what, for me, I'm making contact, trying to make contact with the most high entities to bring down that information to better myself, to become the highest superhero god I can be, but also call down help for reinforcement. Because for me, we need help. And for me, the extraterrestrial ancestors I'm going to call down will open up a new world of free electrical energy, schools to where we can study ourselves and learn our powers within, not just learning how to fly, not just learning how to disappear, but the higher mysteries of thoughts that I haven't even thought of. And then being able to create a civilization, being able to be dropped off on a planet where people are less evolved and teach them. And possibly that's the story of the gods, us being able to travel through different dimensions and going to lower civilizations and giving them information to upgrade their civilization. And to me, that's where we're headed to. We're being upgraded while others are being downgraded. So this channel right here, these are the mystery schools. But now we're revealing the mysteries. This is the reality. So it's time to build the future, which is going to take us, we the people, will determine the future. Do not allow the parasites to take over. And I'm gonna let Charles end it.
Yeah, so it's very important that if you are here, you are here because you're supposed to be. You've seen or you felt our glyph. You've seen our energy. You felt the energy. If you're here, it's because you were supposed to hear this. You've been guided by your ancestors, your guardian angels, God. Because you have to start looking into this because they know that you have these secret energetic invisible powers and yeah, if you start to think about it, I think it will recalibrate you. This is just a transference of information. I mean, it is too late in the game to start drinking alcohol. It is too late in the game to start you know, destroying your body. I think we have to like level up, otherwise we're going to be left behind. The answers are here, and it's not easy. It's not easy for me. I get a lot of negative energy too. I get a lot of negativity, but helping people is the best frequency. It's the best frequency to live on. As long as you're on that frequency, you will get so many blessings, and you will get answers to every question you've ever thought to ask, and then you'll ask new questions that you couldn't have asked if you weren't already on this frequency. And to some people, what we're saying is going to sound ridiculous, and it's not going to make sense. But give it a chance because we're real humans. Yeah, I'm a real person. We are real living creatures that are trying to find our way through. And there are other people way ahead of us, helping us, dropping the breadcrumbs through the forest, and we're finding new things every day. There are things that I know I can blow people's minds in many different ways, and that's what I kind of wanted. I wanted to have some information that no one else had. That's exciting. But yeah, you're on the right channel. You're on the right path. If some of this was too much, watch it again. Watch it while you're sleeping. Your subconscious is always awake. Okay, watch it while you're sleeping. That's how I learned most of the things I've learned. I've kind of played audio while I'm sleeping, so my brain is always refreshed and ready. You don't like the Tartarians didn't have to go to the bathroom. The Tartarians didn't have to sleep. We can get back to that place. And if you look at like biblical characters, like people that were so intelligent, they must have had multiple lifetimes. Look at Renaissance art. Look at the realism, not the like government CIA funded modern art that is absolutely ridiculous and a waste of time. I'm talking about real high frequency pre-Raphaelite Renaissance art. Those people lived for hundreds of years. They lived for hundreds of years. I think Moses lived like 820 years or something. Like the reality is not what you think it is, and don't let people keep reminding you of what you can't do. Uh, you know, it's like Bruce Willis in Sixth Sense. No, not Sixth Sense. Sorry. What's the other one where he
Fifth
fights God?
Element.
No, the one with M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh, that might be Sixth Sense.
Is that
That's
Sixth Sense?
Sixth
Oh, what's the second one he did? Unbreakable, where he finds out he can bench
Sense.
press anything.
Superpower. Oh yeah. Okay.
I love that. Not the other movies. The later ones were not that great, but I think it's the one with
Samuel L. Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson, Mr. Glass, right? So
Yes.
one of the best superhero movies because it's not really a superhero movie. It's about him protecting his son, I guess, in the end. But he finds out suddenly that he can bench press anything, and he just told himself he couldn't do it. And he had these powers his whole life, and he just and every one of us was given a gift, and you got to find out what that is before you get old.
There
Please find
it
out
is.
what your gift is before it's too
Yes.
late, and you've wasted this one lifetime. You get another chance. I'm pretty sure there's reincarnation, and I'm pretty sure we get many lifetimes. But find what your gift is within your life as soon as you can. Some people find it when they're very young. You know, but yeah, find out what your gift is. I'm not saying it's necessarily like superhuman strength, but
It is. To me, that's what it
yeah,
is. All right.
I think
So
superhuman strength and superheroes resonates with us because we know it's
well,
inside
look
us
at the
too.
picture. What do you think of this picture with
Yeah,
Magneto from X-Men, and then
yeah.
this night picture with Tesla? Uh, Do you think that this is a device then that we're looking at, and they're showing Magneto to where people were able to harness the magnet
Yeah,
technology?
I know a lot about that particular image. So there were ley lines, energy lines running through America. So all these ancient cities like Chicago and Colorado Springs, these are like ancient energy centers. So he
Chicken.
had to buid this. It's I think it's a transmitter that sends out frequencies to everyone. So if you have one of those helmets, you can receive that information or that energy. So this is a device that's capable of transmitting millions of volts of electricity over great distances without wires. This image is really old. It's like 1800s. And he was doing this in Colorado Springs because that was a very high energy center. Ancient energy lines, ley lines.
Really? I went to Colorado State University.
There you go.
Interesting.
So now you already have all of that power, you know. So
Wow.
yeah, go back there sometimes. Get some
I
deja vu.
am.
Deja vu is great for recalibrating parallel universes and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. I will.
What a
Interesting.
place. Yeah, I think it's 1899. He was
Wow.
already doing this in 1899. Can you believe that? It's a long time ago.
Well, look at the movie Wild Wild West. I know we gotta go, but even the movie Wild Wild West, I thought they were hinting at that in the Wild West they had technology. And then in that movie, the
Yeah.
villain calls Will Smith a Moor. Right there.
I have to see that again. Yeah, I saw that a long time ago. It's very
Everyone
old.
watched the movie Will Smith Wild West, which he made instead of being Neo in the Matrix, by the way. But this movie shows Will Smith in the Wild West, and it has them advance. And so the villain says he calls him a blacker Moor. And it's the scene right here. So maybe type in Will Smith with the vice around his neck, or type in Will Smith called Moor Wild West. So right there for me, they're showing you that there was an advanced civilization in the past, not just in Egypt, not just in India, but to me, the entire planet was a Wakanda, y'all.
Do you want to hear a really crazy question?
Yes.
Okay, here you go. Ready? Do you think the Moors were using Tesla's like wireless electricity to power all of their cities from
Yes.
Australia to America,
Yes.
Europe?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah,
exactly what I'm saying, is that right
yeah.
here
I don't know if people understand what that means. Like that is realistic,
in the pyramids, for me
you know?
personally, the pyramids, just like Beam Me Up, Scotty, uh, we would wear the armor. Some of us, to me, the neuromelanin, we could do it naturally. But let's say the armor are the oils. So when you see the ancient Egyptians pouring oil on people and it looks like electricity, to me that oil is a substance for you to walk through the wormhole. And that's what the pyramids were. They were our ancient airports, to where you could destabilize your atoms or through sound frequency and transport yourself all throughout the planet, just like that. So just like we could do it through the tunnel system, through air compression, like the last episode we showed in New York, they used the air compression vacuums. So the Moors used that. So the underground tunnels weren't just for walking, they were a form of mass transportation underneath the oceans. So not only did we navigate on the waters, we navigated in the air on ships, and we had also vehicles. If you study the Amazon forest, they say that there's millions of cities, that there's cities that held millions of people, and they found roads that were paid of gold. And that gold, like Charles is showing you right here, those devices linked up to that technology. So the cars were solar ran cars. If the roads were gold, that meant that the vehicles had an electrical frequency in them, and that's what the spacecrafts are vibrating on. The spacecrafts go off of the magnetic ley lines, and then with the crystals and certain alloys and things, you're able to bend time and space. So when you see the Moors and Moors with those devices, not only were they weapons, but for me, they were weapons to open up wormholes like in They Live, press a button. So when you look at the Anunnaki pictures with them with a watch, not only was it like they say where they held the herb, for me, it's the technology that they use to travel space and time. And that's what we're looking at when we look here. The human eye sees frequencies from 430 to 770 hertz. So that's what they're showing you in the movie They Live. They're showing you that there's glasses, or you can basically raise your vibration up to a high level to where you're able to see and make contact with these other entities as we start closing it out. So the answer is yes, we're able to build technology to travel the stars. We're able and have built technology. Hold on. Building technology. Hold on 1 second. Building technology for mobile devices. So just like you have today your cell phones, we have the same thing. So possibly when you see the Unk, that's a device to communicate with. What if the Unk that we're looking at when we see this picture, what if that's like also a microphone? What if you are able to talk into that or receive messages? Some people say you're able to control populations with that. Either way it goes, use your innovative mind. When we look at the ancient world as being advanced, it changes your perspective on reality. This is what we're doing. We are the gods. We are the superheroes. Imagine when we start using 100% of our mind. They say that we use 50% of our mind. Some people, they say we use 15% of our mind. So imagine when we use 80% of our minds. What are we able to do? So for I'm not going to waste my life not trying my best to tap into that full potential. I am Jason E. Williams. You can find me at thematrixuniversity.com. As you know, we have Jason Wins the Game. You can find me on Amazon. Type this in, #1 bestseller. We talk about ADHD, overcoming obstacles, reading. Jason Visits the Museum on Amazon. Multicultural, we travel through the museums. And Jason and the Lost Pyramids. And since we were talking about tarot cards, this is what we drew today in the tarot card system. So we drew this tonight. Eliba, 2 of Waters, for those who can decode. And then, Ashu Marie, the cobra with the rainbow and the sun in the back. That's what I pulled. So, and that comes from the tarot card of Orishas right here, y'all. So, once again, Cash App, $ Jason Elm Street Williams. You can tune in every week for the hottest station on the planet. And as always, you know I'm going to leave y'all with some of the hottest music. This song right here, since we're on Spaceship and Intergalactic, this song is a classic. It's called Spaceship. And so I wrote this song about, it was supposed to be on the Men in Black, I believe, 2 soundtrack, in another movie soundtrack, but politics.
Yeah, definitely. But I want to hear the original. I want to hear my song before I even get the energy on this, so the world doesn't get it mistaken. Pop my collar, you know what I mean? I'm living in a spaceship, trying to earn my spaceship. Living in a matrix. Pop my collar, you know what I mean? I'm living in a spaceship, trying to earn my spaceship. Living in a matrix. Just slide it in. Just slide it out. Clap your hands, everybody. Clap your hands. Everybody clap your hands. Come on. Pop my collar, you know what I mean? I'm living in a spaceship, trying to earn my spaceship. Living in a matrix, my collar, you know what I mean? I'm living in a spaceship, trying to earn my spaceship. Living in a matrix. Is it me, or do we all have dreams? Believe in yourself, achieve anything. We are about to rise on the blocks, hustling, working 9 to 5. I be Queen Khalifa surfing, not a goddess. Why you working, swerving down them lanes, bending corners, reality change. God of the music, time for a change. Hop back your mind, knowledge to the brain. Sick with the flow, you can make it rain. Delete all your fears, life is just a game. My collar, you know what I mean? I'm living in a spaceship, trying to earn my spaceship. Living in a matrix, my collar, you know what I mean? I'm living in a spaceship, trying to earn my spaceship. Living in a matrix. We are energy, so we will never die. Chasing the God, touch planets and stay high. Original design. Ooh, I'm so fly. Been on the block with the killers being Africanized. Color doesn't exist. Word to the wise, it's just a disguise. It's all in your mind. Ain't no reality you can't climb. Welcome to that subline, blowing on that fine line. California sunshine, Mother Earth, her time. Lean back, pop lock. Love music won't stop. Riverside, USA, birthplace of thunder rock, thunder rock, thunder rock. Pop my collar, you know what I mean? I'm living in a spaceship, trying to earn my spaceship. Living in a matrix, my collar, you know what I mean? I'm living in a spaceship, trying to earn my spaceship. Living in a matrix, lost in space, trapped on a rock. Third from the sun, Earth always hot. Trapped in a matrix, now we bang blocks. Universe rise, black people rock. Lost in space, trapped on a rock. Third from the sun, Earth always hot. Trapped in a matrix, now we bang blocks. Universe rise, black people rock. Black people rock, black people rock. Black people rock, black people rock. Black people rock, black people rock. Black people rock. You know what I mean? I'm living in a spaceship, trying to earn my spaceship. Living in a matrix, my collar, you know what I mean? I'm living in a spaceship, trying to earn my spaceship. Living in a matrix.
I'm living in a spaceship. 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 I said I'm
round. The world keep spinning, the world keep spinning, the world keep spinning, the world keep spinning.
And right here in the middle, you see how they bend time and space and come through the matrix. I'm Jason Elm Street Williams, Master of the Universe. July, August, September, October. We're living in a video game. Let's wake up and unplug. Together, we form the new world.